Yes, we can hear you in the courtroom, loud and clear. And I guess you can hear us as well.
So I understand you're not going to do things exactly the way these guys are used to doing. So I'll help you along where I can.
I appreciate that.
Check, 1, 2. This is a WebEx audio. Check, 1, 2. Everyone should hear us. I will be muting it momentarily. I assume we have counsel on there. I thought I saw him.
Christian Horton's here. I can hear you fine.
Great. Was there another counsel that was gonna be on today as well?
Diana Carter is on, but she's, I think she stepped away for a moment.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll remute the WebEx then.
Yes, thank you. All right. Let's bring this proceeding to order and go on the record. Today is October 3rd, 2022. The time is 9:00 a.m. The Commission has set this time for an evidentiary hearing in the case captioned as in the matter of the application of Jerry L. Countryman for change of electric supplier from Empire District Electric Company doing business as Liberty to White River Valley Electric Cooperative Incorporated. It's the Public Service Commission file number EO-2022-0226. My name is Ken Sire. I am the regulatory law judge presiding over this hearing. The hearing has taken place in the Public Service Commission hearing room, room 310 of the Governor Office Building in Jefferson City, Missouri. However, parties and witnesses will also be participating over the internet via Cisco WebEx. Mr. Countryman is here in room 310, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then let's have counsel for the parties make their entries of appearance, starting with Liberty.
Good morning, Diana Carter for the Empire District Electric Company doing business as Liberty. Mailing address 428 East Capitol Avenue, Suite 303, Jefferson City, Missouri, 65101.
Thank you. For White River Valley Electric Co-op.
Good morning, Christian Horton for White River Valley Electric Cooperative. And bar number is 46003. Mailing address is 2805 South Ingram Mill, Springfield, Missouri, 65804.
Thank you. And for the staff of the commission.
That's Stacy for staff, 200 Madison Street, Jefferson City, 65101.
All right, thank you. For those in the hearing room, I ask everyone to silence any cell phones and mobile devices. For those connected via Cisco WebEx, I ask that you mute your microphone when not speaking. For those in the hearing room, please be cognizant of when your microphones are on, indicated by a lit green light at the base, and when they are off. When speaking into the microphones, you should be within a few inches of the microphone for proper amplification. Mr.
Judge, just Holtzman, I've joined.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, this is Commissioner Holtzman. I was just alerting you to my presence.
Okay, let's go ahead and the other commissioners, if they would identify themselves.
Good morning, Judge. Chairman Sylvie's here.
Good morning. All right, well, we may have other commissioners join us here shortly. Mr. Countryman, you're not represented by an attorney today, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. That is, of course, acceptable and not uncommon in cases such as yours. Please don't be overly concerned about following our hearing procedures perfectly. When I can today, I will assist you. Today, you may call witnesses to testify, including yourself, and may offer other evidence for the commission to consider in reaching a decision on your change of electric supplier request. You will also, along with the other parties, be allowed to give an opening statement. You do not have to give an opening statement, but an opening statement generally is an opportunity for a party in the case to give the commissioners and me a preview or a summary of what you expect the evidence to be today during the hearing and why that evidence will support your request to switch from Liberty to White River. Please keep this in mind, however. You are not sworn in before you give your opening statement. You are not under oath and not subject to cross-examination by the other parties. In other words, an opening statement by itself cannot substitute for testimony under oath and other admitted evidence. The commissioners cannot base their decision purely on opening statements. You must still present evidence following the opening statements for the commissioners' consideration. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Also, you will be given the opportunity to cross-examine the other party's witnesses. That is, you may ask them questions when they are through answering questions from their attorneys or after their pre-filed testimony has been admitted. These must be questions and not statements by you. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do the parties have any preliminary matters to take up? All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, White River does not.
Staff does not, Your Honor.
Nothing from Liberty, thank you.
All right. Thank you. As far as the order of witnesses, we will follow the order filed by the parties in their joint list and order of witnesses. Mr. Countryman will testify first on behalf of himself, followed by Jeffrey Westfall for Liberty, Bo Jackson for White River, and then Alan Bax for the staff of the commission. Let's see. All right, so at this point, I'll take opening statements. Mr. Countryman, would you like to give an opening statement?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Oh, you know what? If you'd like, you can also stand at the podium if you'd be more comfortable doing that.
I believe I can do it from here, sir.
All right.
My name's Jerry Countryman. The only statement. My name's Jerry Countryman. The only statement I have is everything I have presented to the commission, verbally or written, I believe to be the truth, to the best of my knowledge. I have 2 exhibits with me today I'd like to give the judge. And other than that, why, we proceed on, sir.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Carter, would you like to give an opening statement?
Thanks, Judge. Just briefly, there has been pre-filed testimony in the case, and that pre-filed testimony establishes the facts. The direct testimony from Mr. Countryman is the same as his application, and it sets just one reason for support for his request for a change of supplier, and that's the convenience of having one electric supplier for his 2 adjacent parcels. There was then rebuttal testimony filed by Liberty, White River Cooperative, and also the staff of the commission. And all 3 of these pieces of rebuttal testimony are in substantial agreement with each other that the request should not be granted based on the applicable statute and the 10-factor test that the commission has traditionally applied in these situations. And then there was no rebuttal testimony filed by Mr. Countryman. I won't go through all 10 of the factors. Those are established by commission order. The statute 393-106, that's known as Missouri's anti-flip-flop statute, and that's what's applicable here, that there would need to be a reason that's in the public interest to grant the change of supplier other than a difference in rates. But then those 10 factors that the commission has traditionally applied help to determine what may be in the public interest in these sorts of cases. Again, I won't go through all 10, but one I would like to note is the efforts that the current supplier has established, has gone through to solve or mitigate problems. And in this case, the commissioners will hear, or you'll see in the pre-filed testimony, that there's been no mitigation or nothing has taken place because there have been no problems stated. There's nothing for Liberty to address. They haven't been given that opportunity because, again, the only stated reason by Mr. Countryman is the convenience of having the same electric supplier for his 2 adjacent parcels. Liberty, being consistent with the commission's prior holdings, did not grant Mr. Countryman's request and is opposing it here before the commission Nothing personal, certainly to Mr. Countryman, and we understand that it would be convenient for him to have one supplier for those two parcels. But the statute is clear that there has to be a reason, sufficient cause to grant that. As is explained in the rebuttal testimony of Liberty's witness, Jeff Westfall, Liberty's other customers are harmed when there's a change of supplier granted. The smaller the customer base, the more costs that have to be borne by the remaining customers. Also, we have the statute in place in Missouri so that electric suppliers can rely on that continued service once it is established. White River is the established supplier for the one parcel, and Liberty is the established provider for the other parcel. And by the statute, they are both entitled to continue providing that service. Again, we have Jeff Westfall here to testify for Liberty. Also in attendance by WebEx is Charlotte Emery. Mr. Westfall is Liberty's Senior Director of Electric Operations for Transmission and Distribution, and Ms. Emery is our Director of Regulatory. Be happy to answer any questions, and otherwise we'll just present Mr. Westfall when it is our turn for testimony.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carter. Do the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Carter?
No questions at this time, Judge.
No questions, Judge.
Thank you, Chairman. And I apologize. Do the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Countryman following his opening statement?
No questions, Judge. Commissioner Holzman.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Horton, would you like to give an opening statement for on behalf of White River Valley Electric Cooperative?
I would very briefly. White River filed rebuttal testimony, and in that rebuttal testimony, we included an Exhibit A, which I think is a really nice illustration of the aerial view of the property in question, how the services come in from both Liberty and White River. And as much as White River would love to serve Mr. Countryman, we believe that the existing statutory framework and commission regulations prohibit that. And that's essentially our position in this case. We'd love to serve him, but we don't feel we have the legal right to serve him. So I will have Bo Jackson providing some testimony in relation to this Exhibit A and being able to field some questions about line extension and what it would look like if we were to bring services in. He is the manager of engineering and development for White River. But beyond that, that probably will conclude the testimony that I would intend to offer in the case. Thank you.
All right. Do the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Horton? All right, Mr. Stacy, would you like to make an opening statement on behalf of the commission?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
For staff of the commission?
Good morning, Your Honor and Commission. May it please the Commission. My name is Scott Stacy, and I'm counsel for staff. Mr. Alan Bax for staff is here, has submitted testimony on the issue at hand, which is whether it is in the public interest for a reason other than a rate differential for the Commission to order a change of electric service provider from Empire District Electric Company, Liberty, to White River Valley Electric Cooperative for Jerry Countryman's asserted reason having only one electric service provider for his two adjacent real estate parcels. The issue standard is set forth in sections 393.106 and 394.314 of the revised statutes of Missouri. The answer to that question is no. Mr. Countryman owned a parcel of land that his parents gave him since 1977, which was serviced by Liberty from then on. He inherited another portion of the property in 2010, which had been serviced by White River and has continued to service said property. 12 years later, Mr. Countryman files his application to change suppliers with one reason that he prefers to have one provider. The commission found in Smith versus Union, EC-2007-0106, that customer preference by itself is not a sufficient reason to find that it is in the public interest to change suppliers. The burden of proof in this matter is on Mr. Countryman to show that there is a reason for changing suppliers other than a differential in rates that is a public benefit. Mr. Bax will testify that Mr. Countryman admitted to him that he wanted to change suppliers as Liberty's costs were going up. Even if Mr. Countryman had not stated one of the reasons being a rate differential, Mr. Countryman would have to show other reasons than this preference, which would include the Commission's 10-factor test on whether the reasons are within the public interest. Mr. Bax will further testify that he did an investigation with Liberty and White River, as well with Mr. Countryman, in regards to this test. Whether customers' needs cannot adequately be met by the present supplier with respect to either the amount or quality of power, there is no indication of either service-related or safety concerns noted in the application. Whether there are health or safety issues involving the amount or quality of power, there is no reported incidents. What alternative a customer has considered, including an alternative with the present supplier, staff is unaware of any possible alternatives being discussed, such as territorial agreement. Whether the customer's equipment has been damaged or destroyed as a result of a problem with the electric supply, staff is not aware of any claims by Mr. Countryman of damaged equipment as a result of the related service provided. The effect of the loss of the customer would have on the present supplier. In its response, Liberty mentions a negative impact thrust on its remaining customer base should the change of supplier request be approved. Whether the change of supplier would result in duplication of facilities, especially in comparison with the alternatives available from the present supplier, a comparison that should include there would be duplicate facilities and extend facilities and costs associated with removing Liberty. The overall burden on the customer caused by the inadequate service, including any economic burden not related to the cost of electricity itself, and any burden not considered with respect to Factor 6, Mr. Countryman has not indicated experiencing any service-related or safety concerns regarding electric service received from either Liberty or White River. What efforts have been made by the present supplier to solve or mitigate problems, Mr. Countryman has not alleged experiencing any service-related or safety issues. The impact that this Commission's decision may have on economic development on an individual or cumulative basis, Mr. Countryman has received safe and reliable service from Liberty since the 1970s. Liberty mentions the negative impact on its customer base should the application be approved. The effect of granting of authority for change of suppliers might have on any territorial agreements between the two suppliers in question or on the negotiation of territorial agreements between the electric service providers. There are no existing territorial agreements between Liberty and White River that include the parcel at 451 North Countryman Road, Ozark, Missouri, nor the greater property as a whole. Based on the investigation conducted by Mr. Baxter's responses from Liberty and White River, and lacking of information from Mr. Countryman's application and testimony, other than to have one supplier and cost going up with his current supplier, Mr. Countryman's request is not in the public interest, and staff requests the Commission deny Mr. Countryman's application. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stacy. Do the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Stacy? All right. Hearing none, you may be seated. Thank you.
Judge, I'm sorry. This is Chairman Sylvie. I do have a question.
All right. Go ahead, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Stacy, you pointed out the statutory hurdles that Mr. Countryman would need to clear in order for this commission to find in his favor. At any point in the process before this hearing, were those statutory hurdles explain to Mr. Countryman as to what his burden of proof would be?
I believe we sent all the documentation to him, and they're all addressed within not only the staff's rebuttal testimony, and as well as the staff's memo. And White River and Liberty both also submitted those 10 factors as well. So he had an understanding of what those 10 factors were, and he mentioned in his testimony, Mr. Countryman that is, that he knows about the 10 factors and that they should think out, or that the commission should think outside the box as his, and he agrees that his request does not meet the requirement of those factors.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Countryman, since you have the burden of proof today, we'll hear your evidence first, and it's my understanding that you'd like to testify on your own behalf, but you have no other witnesses to call, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. I am going to ask you to shift to the witness stand.
Is this on? Okay.
Looks like it is. All right. Thank you. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn in, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sir?
Would you please state your name for the record and then spell your first and last name, please?
Jerry L. Countryman, Jerry L. Countryman, Countryman.
All right. And you are the same Jerry L. Countryman who filed an application for a change of electric service provider on February 25th, 2022. That is the subject of this evidentiary hearing?
Yes, sir.
All right. You mailed a 2-page statement to the commission that was received and filed with the commission on July 19th, 2022. It's dated July 14th, correct?
Correct.
Would you like that statement to be admitted into evidence as part of your direct testimony?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, do you have a copy of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And could you hand that to the court reporter just to make sure that it has all the applicable information on there?
Yes, sir.
All right. And it is marked as Exhibit 1, correct? All right. Do you need that to refer to?
Sir?
Do you need to have that in front of
No,
you?
That's fine. I don't need it. I've got a copy.
But do you have a copy right there in front of you on the witness
May I
stand?
get it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I got it now.
All right. So, since you don't have an attorney, I'm just going to turn it over to you, and you can testify as to what you believe the commissioners should know about your situation that would support your case for the change of electric supplier.
Yes, sir. The only thing I can say is my letter of 14 July 2022, which they received the 19th, I tried to state the facts as I seen them. My additional property being inherited, I inherited an extra utility company. So since then, why I've been trying to figure out what I could do about it, and I inquired with both utility companies about the possibility of changing out, and came down to about the elements and this and that, so that I realized I needed to contact the commission and they've sent me an application for change of service and sent the information regarding the elements. Looking through the elements out of the statutes, my particular situation does not fall that I could see in the elements. The only thing that I have is I'm paying 2 base rates for 2 utilities for property I own that's adjacent in 1 property. I inherited this property out of the trust from my folks. Since then, I have established a trust with all this property in it to my sons. So I'm trying to clear up things where it's down to 1 thing, 1 utility, et cetera. So that's why I've submitted this. I made a statement too that sometimes you have to think outside the box from the elements. The statutes are there. You have to follow those, but I do know that there should be some sort of latitude in the statutes for the commission to act on this particular situation. And that's kind of my stance on that, sir.
All right. Mr. Stacy, do you have any questions on cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. First, staff does not have an objection to the admission of his statement that he sent.
All right, let's just go ahead and address that. Do the attorneys for Liberty or White River have any objection to the admission of Exhibit 1, the 2-page statement that Mr. Countryman filed in July?
No objection from Liberty.
No objection from White River.
All right, then Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Countryman.
Morning.
You stated in your direct testimony, your letter from July 19th, 2022, that you filed with the Missouri Public Service Commission. You stated in that letter that you knew the commission had specific elements that must be met for a change of service request. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You further stated that your request for change of service provider or service supplier was not within those elements, correct?
That's correct.
And for the commission to think outside of the box.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you've had the 451 North Countryman Road since 1977, is that correct?
That's correct.
And Liberty provided service there since 1977.
No, sir.
Who was the who provided it first?
Empire's the one that put the service in.
Okay, but Empire is also known as Liberty.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you received the other adjoining property in 2010, is that right?
Sir?
You received the other property in 2010,
Correct.
and that was serviced by White River.
Correct.
Okay, and you did not file an application for change of service provider at that time.
No, sir.
In fact, you waited 12 years to file the application. Is
That's
that
correct.
Okay. Now, you spoke with Mr. Allen Bax on the phone a while ago, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you told Mr. Bax that you wanted to change the supplier,
Correct.
and you wanted to change from Liberty to White River,
Correct.
and you also indicated that you wanted to change from Liberty to White River because Liberty's rates were going up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Carter, do you have any questions on cross-examination for Mr. Countryman?
Mr. Countryman, I'd like to thank you for coming to Jeff City and for participating in the process. I do not have any questions for you today. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Horton, any questions on behalf of White River?
I have basically one question. Mr. Countryman, thank you again as well for putting your application forward. A thought that I had is, have you ever thought about combining your real estate parcels there at the farm to make one contiguous parcel? Has that ever been part of your thoughts on how you would hold that title to that real estate?
Sir, my long-range plans right now is 5 to 8 years. That barn you see on that one, it's in the property I inherited. I'm looking at making that a one-bedroom apartment for myself because I've got all this property in my trust now to my kids. And I'll be vacating the house by that time. So that's one reason I was trying to get this down to one electric utility.
Do you have the anticipation that you'll need new service connections or new meters for anything that you're wanting to do with this property in the near future?
I didn't understand you, sir.
Are you going to be requiring new or additional electric services for either the barn or the home that's being serviced right now by Liberty? Do you see
At the barn,
the
I'll
need
have
for-
to up.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Will you try your question again?
Mr. Countryman, what she's saying is she'd like for him to complete his question so she can get it, so she can record it, and then
Okay,
you can go ahead and answer.
sorry.
So, Mr. Horton, go ahead if you'll repeat that question.
Sure. Question was, do you anticipate new service needs there at your property, either at the barn or at the home?
Yes, sir.
I believe you said that you might be needing some additional electric service if you convert the barn into livable space for you.
Yes,
But the barn right now does have electric service, and I believe that White River is your electric supplier for the barn. Is that true?
that's true.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horton. Are there questions from the commissioners?
Judge, this is Commissioner Roop. I joined late, but I have no questions.
Okay. And is Commissioner Kolkmeyer on as well?
Yes, Judge, I'm here.
All right, thank you.
And I have no questions.
Okay. All right. Mr. Countryman, before we went on the record, before the hearing started, you were also showing me the plat.
Yes, sir.
of
That's
your
the other
property.
exhibit I'd like to give you.
Okay, so it is something that you filed with your application originally back in February, but you'd also like it marked as an exhibit.
I'm not sure what date I submitted that to the commission, but I submitted that same thing. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that has been marked as Exhibit 2.
Yes, sir.
And would you, made some markings on it yourself.
Yes, sir.
There's a blue dash line and I believe a red dash line.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are those, what does the blue line?
The blue line is the Liberty electric line coming down and going to the house. The green line at the bottom that goes all the way across is White River. That supplies the barn.
Okay. And those are the lines as they currently exist?
Sir?
Those are the lines as they currently exist today?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, well, it's going to be kind of difficult to let the other attorneys see that exhibit. Ms. Carter, do you need to see that exhibit?
I do not. That's okay, Judge. Liberty doesn't have an objection to that being admitted.
Okay, and Mr. Horton?
We have no objection either.
Mr. Stacy, would you like to take a look at it?
No, Your Honor, no objection.
All right. Then that exhibit, it's marked as Exhibit 2. It's one page. That'll be admitted into evidence.
I can submit it.
Yeah, if you'll hand that to the court reporter, please.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Countryman, if you'll step down and take your place back at the table.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Countryman, would you have any objection to your original application that you filed in February being marked as an exhibit? And would you like to offer that into evidence?
I have no objection on that, sir.
Okay. How about Mr. Stacy? Would you have any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Carter
No objection. Thank you.
and Mr. Horton?
None here.
All right. Let's get that marked and all right, it has been marked as Exhibit 3. And it is 8 pages long. Exhibit 3 is admitted into evidence. All right, and Mr. Countryman, just to confirm, you don't have any further evidence to present?
No, sir.
All right. Then, Ms. Carter, you may call your first witness.
Thanks, Judge. Liberty calls Jeff Westfall, who is appearing by WebEx.
Okay, Mr. Westfall, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead, Ms. Carter.
Thank you. Jeff, if you'll please state your full name and spell it for the court reporter.
Okay, it is Jeffrey Westfall, Jeffrey Westfall.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Liberty Utility Service Corp. I am the Central Region Senior Director of Electric Operations for Transmission and Distribution.
And are you testifying today on behalf of the Empire District Electric Company doing business as Liberty?
Yes.
When did you first come to work for Empire?
December 4th, 1989.
Did you prepare and pre-file rebuttal testimony in this case?
Yes, I did.
And has that been marked Exhibit 100 for identification?
Yes, it has.
Do you have any corrections for that pre-filed rebuttal testimony?
I do not.
If I asked you those same questions today, would your answers be substantially the same?
Yes.
And are all of those answers true and correct to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
I would offer Exhibit 100 for admission and tender Mr. Westfall for cross-examination.
All right, is there any objection to Mr. Westfall's direct testimony coming into evidence?
No objection from staff, Your Honor.
No objection from White River.
Mr. Countryman, any objection?
No, sir.
All right. Then Exhibit 100 is admitted into evidence. Mr. Horton, do you have any questions for Mr. Westfall?
I do not.
Mr. Stacy?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Countryman, do you have any questions for Mr. Westfall?
No, sir.
All right. Any questions from the commissioners? All right. Hearing none, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Westfall, and you're excused.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter, do you have any further witnesses to call?
We do not, Judge. Thank you.
All right. Then, Mr. Horton, call your first witness.
Okay, at this time, I would call Bo Jackson as my witness representing White River Valley Electric Cooperative.
All right. Mr. Jackson is appearing via WebEx. Mr. Jackson, would you raise your right hand, please? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Horton.
Thank you. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure, it's Bo Jackson, BeauJackson.
Mr. Jackson, what is your present job title at White River?
Vice President, Chief Engineering Officer.
And are you familiar with the engineering that White River does in relation to its distribution lines and systems?
Yes.
You had an opportunity to review the application in this case that was filed by Mr. Countryman. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you worked on a response to that application that we filed in this case under your verification, sworn testimony that the information in the response of White River Valley Electric was truthful and accurate. Is that true?
Yes.
And just to give a little background, in the rebuttal testimony that was filed that you verified, you had included an Exhibit A to that rebuttal testimony. Do you have that Exhibit A in front of you?
I do.
And in review of that Exhibit A, can you explain to us the nature of the services that are being provided by both White River and Liberty to the Countryman property?
So in the exhibit, highlighted in the blue line is Empire's existing facilities coming in, serving the home in question. White River's existing line runs east and west, represented by the brown line, solid line. And for us to be able to serve this Mr. Countryman's home that currently is served by Empire or Liberty, is represented by the dashed line coming off an existing pole and extending that the lines for service and coming in and routing similar to Empire, but coming from the south. It required probably around about 2 to 3 poles, in addition to some retirement from the Empire side of their facilities.
What kind of an estimated span of feet are we talking about for that line extension for White River to serve the Countryman home that Liberty is now serving?
between 300 to 500 feet.
And you've evaluated the White River's position to serve that structure. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you've concluded, based on the information that you have at this time, the application that was filed by Mr. Countryman, that it's not property that we can serve. Is that accurate?
Based on the statute, yes.
Yes, okay. Although you'd like to serve it, you believe that the law prohibits White River from serving the Countryman home. Is that true?
That is correct.
I don't have any further questions for Mr. Jackson.
All right. Ms. Carter, do you have any questions on cross-examination?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Stacy, any questions?
Maybe just a couple, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Morning.
There's no territorial agreement between Liberty and White River in that area, is that correct?
That is correct.
What would the cost be associated if White River was ordered to put that information, or put the line and poles and other services in?
Depending on the route, but estimated between $8,000 to $10,000.
Would that have an effect on other White River customers? In reference to how much would their bills go up? Or is there potential?
I don't know if I can. Well, being that it's adding to a new servant addition, I would not say it would impact the resident membership rates.
All right, nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Countryman, do you have any questions for Mr. Jackson?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? All right. Hearing none. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
Mr. Horton, do you have any other witnesses to call?
I do not.
All right. Mr. Horton, would you like to offer that Exhibit 300 into evidence? I'm sorry, not 300. 200, I believe.
That would be fine if we could make that part of the record. I realize that there was not a pre-filed exhibit on our part, which was intentional, but it may be better just to have it part of the record and labeled as Exhibit 200 if it can be, and I would offer it for that purpose.
Okay. So that would be the pre-filed rebuttal testimony with Exhibit A. Total of 6 pages. Is there any objection to that?
No objection, staff.
No objection from Liberty?
All right. Mr. Countryman?
No, sir.
No objection.
No objection.
All right. Then that Exhibit 200 will be admitted into evidence. All right, Mr. Stacy, call your first witness.
Staff calls Alan Bax.
All right, Mr. Bax is here in the hearing room. Mr. Bax, would you raise your right hand, please? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Bax.
Good morning.
Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
Alan J. Bax, AlanJBAX.
And by whom are you employed?
I'm employed by the Missouri Public Service Commission,
And what is your position there?
staff engineer.
Have you prepared and filed testimony in this proceeding?
Yes,
Specifically rebuttal testimony filed on August 22nd, 2022, as set forth in Exhibit 300?
yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to make to this document set forth in Exhibit 300?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions in this document today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Are those questions and answers true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 300 to be admitted into evidence.
All right. Are there any objections?
No objection from Liberty?
No objection from White River.
Mr. Countryman?
I have no objection.
All right, thank you. Then Exhibit 300 is admitted into evidence.
Staff tenders Mr. Bax for cross-examination.
All right. Mr. Countryman, I'm going to give you the opportunity first this time to ask any questions of the witness. Do you have any questions?
I have copies of what Mr. Bax has submitted, and I have no further questions to him.
Okay. All right, Ms. Carter, do you have any questions for the witness?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Horton?
No questions from White River.
Any questions from the commissioners?
No questions, Judge. Thank you, Commissioner Holzman.
All right, Mr. Bax, you're excused.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, do the parties have any further witnesses they'd like to call today?
No more witnesses from staff, Your Honor.
Okay.
Nothing else from Liberty, thank you.
No other witnesses or evidence from White River.
And none from you, Mr. Countryman, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Are there any other matters that need to be addressed before we adjourn?
None from staff, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Countryman?
No, sir.
Okay. In the procedural schedule, there are deadline dates for briefs. Do the parties still wish to submit briefs?
White River does not. We would be fine submitting the matter on the record created today.
Same for Liberty?
Mr. Stacy?
I believe we can base it on the record today, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Countryman, do you understand the question I asked?
No, sir. Would you repeat that?
Way back when, a few months ago, the parties submitted a joint procedural schedule, including a date for today's evidentiary hearing.
Yes, sir.
Also in that schedule were dates to submit briefs, and briefs are just summaries of what the evidence was today and how that evidence supports a particular party's position. It's kind of a formal document. What I'm asking the parties is, do they still wish to submit those briefs, or do they want to waive briefs and not write these briefs, not submit them to the commission, and just submit the case on the record to the commissioners? So far, all the other parties would like to waive that, and I suspect that you weren't planning on writing a brief.
No, sir. We'll let the evidence is shown.
All right. Then we will waive submission of briefs. And is there anything further before we adjourn? All right, then this evidentiary hearing is adjourned and we'll go off the record.